Welcome back to today's episode where we're diving into one of the most important yet often elusive topic for people who just started journaling is how to build a writing habit. Whether you're just starting out or you've been writing for years, maintaining a consistent writing practice can be one of the biggest challenges. Life gets busy, distractions pile up, and before you know it, your writing time slips away. But here's the truth. Writing isn't something that magically happens when you're feeling inspired. It's a habit, a discipline that you cultivate over time. And like any habit, it takes intention, practice, and a little bit of strategy to make it stick. In this episode of Fountainpen Thoughts, we'll explore how to build a sustainable writing habit that works for you, how to get past the excuses, and how to tap into the joy and flow of writing regularly. I'll share my personal experience with overcoming barriers to consistency, along with practical tips you can start using today. And before we go into the first key point, I invite you to visit awritingguy.com for more writing instruments reviews, articles such as this one, and writing goods. I think you will find something useful at the website, and today is the 10th of October, so there is a code you can use at checkout, so 1010 at checkout for $10 off your orders, and it only applies until the end of today. So again, visit awritingguy.com for more content and writing goods. All of your orders will be part of the growing of this channel. Thank you guys, and let's go back to the video. So why a writing habit matters. Before we dive into the how, let's talk about why building a writing habit matters. Writing is like any other skill. It requires practice. The more you write, the better you get at it. But beyond that, a regular writing habit opens up new possibilities for creativity. When you write consistently, you create a flow that allows your ideas to develop more naturally. You're not just waiting for inspiration to strike, you're showing up for your craft every day. Writing regularly also helps you move past the fear of imperfection. One of the biggest roadblocks for writers is the pressure to write something brilliant every time they sit down. But when writing becomes a habit, you stop worrying about perfection and start focusing on the process. You learn to trust that good writing comes through consistent effort. Step 1 is to set really clear and achievable goals. The first step to building a writing habit is to set clear goals. A lot of people get tripped up by setting goals that are too vague or too ambitious. They tell themselves, I'm going to write a book, but they don't know where to start, or they don't know how to break it down into manageable steps. The results is overwhelm and procrastination. Instead, start with smaller, more specific goals. Instead of I'm going to write a novel, let's say I'm going to write 500 words every day for the next month. If 500 words is still too much for you, let's go down 200. It's about the size of an Instagram caption, or maybe even lower. You can do 50, you can do 3 sentences. The key is to make your goal realistic and attainable. You want to build momentum, and that happens when you hit small and consistent milestones. You can also focus on time-based goals if word counts feel too rigid. You can try something like 30 minutes of writing every morning, or an hour 3 days a week for writing. And again, make a checklist or put it on your calendar to be reminded. By setting specific and measurable goals, you give yourself something to aim for and a way to track your progress. Step 2 is to find your ideal writing time and space. One of the biggest factors in building a consistent writing habit is finding the time and space that works best for you. Some people are morning writers, while others find their flow late at night. The key is to experiment and figure out when you are most productive and creative. If you're not sure when that is, start by paying attention to your energy levels throughout the day. When do you feel the most focused? When does your mind feel clear? And try writing during those times and see how it feels. In addition to finding your ideal writing time, it's also important to create a space that's conducive to writing. This doesn't have to be a fancy desk or fancy coffee with nice calming music, but it should be a space where you feel comfortable and focused. Whether it's a favorite chair, a cafe, or even your kitchen table, having a designated writing spot can help signal to your brain that it's time to write. It turns writing into something intentional rather than something you do in random or scattered moments. Step 3 is to start small and build momentum. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to build a writing habit is going too big too soon. They set ambitious goals like writing 2 hours a day or completing 5,000 words in one sitting. And while it's great to aim high, starting with such big expectations can lead to burnout or frustration when you inevitably fall short. It's like, even if you just started out a 5-minute run, it's quite an achievement already, but instead you aim for a marathon. And that's practically impossible, right? So let's do 10 minutes a day at first. The goal is to get into the rhythm of doing it every day, even if it's just a little bit. And once that becomes a habit, you will unconsciously extend your writing time, get into the flow state, and before you know it, you can dish out like 500 to 800 words per session. Consistency is far more important than intensity when it comes to building a habit. Writing for 10 minutes every day is more effective than writing for 2 hours once a week. The more frequently you show up, the more natural the process becomes, and the less resistant you'll face when it's time to sit down and write. Step 4 is to eliminate distraction. And one of the biggest enemies of a writing habit is distraction. We have devices all around us, and we're constantly being bombarded with notifications and social media. It's all too easy to sit down to write, then spend half the time scrolling through your phone or answering messages. To build a sustainable habit, you need to create a distraction-free environment. So what I usually do is put my phone on focus mode, or I would try to avoid the tablet and the phone entirely. There are some settings in the phone that allows you to only be able to open 1 or 2 apps and eliminate the distractions of Googling or TikTok or Instagram. So there you go. And step 5, because this is a fountainpen channel, so you can use journaling to stay connected to your writing. And analog is probably the best possible way because it kinda in the similar speed to the way your brain is thinking. And journaling is a low pressure way to keep the writing process going. Even on days when I'm not particularly inspired, because you have a pen in your hand, instead of starting writing immediately, you can do some doodles and perhaps write down a few words, you can brain dump to have something going. It's like starting off a car, a cold start, I would say. Journaling is also a great way to track your progress and reflect on your writing. You can use it to edit as well, because editing is the time that you're writing for real. That's another story. I often find myself reaching for my fountain pen when I journal. There's something tactile about it. I think you know what I mean. It slows you down and it makes the writing process feel more deliberate. And the next step is to let go of perfectionism. Again, you don't start writing when it's editing time. The first draft is always going to suck, and I learned to cope with it. Usually I would spend 20 minutes to half an hour writing my first draft and then just forget about it for like a week or two. And the things I post are things that have been written about 2 weeks earlier. I was able to go back with a fresh mind to look at it, to be cringe at my crappy sentences. And what you have here, what you're listening to right now, or what you are reading on awritingguy.com are the part of the editing process. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received is write badly on purpose. Give yourself permission to write something that's messy, disorganized, or even boring. The important thing is that you're writing. The more you practice, the better your writing will get. And the more you realize that perfectionism is just another form of resistance. And finally, is to celebrate small wins. Building a writing habit is all about getting little wins every day. Every time you sit down to write, even if it's 5 minutes, that's a victory. Every time you hit a word count goal, that's progress. And acknowledge those achievements because it motivates you to continue. Whether it's a journal, spreadsheet, or a note app, keeping a record of your writing lets you have the freedom to edit it later on. You can look back and see how far you have come, even on days where writing feels tough. And sometimes the first draft that I felt the most cringed about is probably the best pieces of writing that I have ever written. And before we end the video, building a writing habit is a journey and not a destination. It's something that evolves over time, and it requires patience, commitment, and self-compassion. The reward's worth it. When your writing in your journal resonates with you or other people, it will start creating value. If you've been struggling to write consistently, I hope this episode has given you some practical strategies to get started. Remember, start small. Don't care about other people's opinion, and let go of perfection. And most importantly, show up for yourself in your writing, even on the days when it feels hard. Thank you guys for watching, and again, for more fountain pen reviews, articles, and writing goods, please check out awritingguy.com. Use the code 1010 at checkout for $10 off at checkout, valid until the end of today's only. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Keep writing.